insurance coverage, the services provided, the coverage provided, the procedures that you have to do if you have to make use of this for medical procedures and so forth. You don't have to do it with your parents who are adults, but sometimes that's valuable for you.
And you have to print off something at
There's
the
a-
end.
There's
that
a
you take
card.
with
Yeah,
you.
there's a card that, so after you've registered, you can select the option of printing off your insurance card. So it's just a,
And it's valuable to have that and
Yes.
carry it with you. I was told by someone today that even if you don't print it off, you're still going to be registered. It's just that you won't have proof of it. But having proof of it ought to be one of the documents you bring along with you. Winter program only, Oyster card registration completed. Now, this may not happen right away either, but when you get notified from Study Abroad, they'll send you an email saying, this is what you do to register for your Oyster card. That will be, collected, and your Oyster card will be waiting for you in London once we get there. Has anybody received an email about Oyster cards yet? The person I asked to Study Abroad didn't know if they'd been sent out, but the other folks who knew was not there today, so. Okay, sometime in December, hopefully, I'm gonna tell them Monday, we haven't seen it because it takes about 3 weeks for them to process that. So, you should be hearing sometime next week, I hope, about a form to fill out online for an Oyster card. That's your travel pass in London. Spring term group, it's a different situation, and you simply will get yours once you arrive there, so you don't have to register for it now. But once you're there, you definitely have to register that card. And once you get your card in England, whether you're winter or spring, you have to register that card so that if it's lost or stolen, you can recover the value. Please.
So my parents have an Oyster card and they're letting me use it. So pretty much I just need to register it in my name, and that's probably about it, and I don't have to worry about.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
Did your parents ever register it, or?
They probably did, but I can verify that with them.
Most tourists don't, so they may not have.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a lot of money
Yeah.
when we get there, and you're probably going to put a lot of money on it. So you don't want to
So just
lose
register
that.
it, but
So I would say register it in your name if they
And
haven't done so.
if you do
If
have.
they
an Oyster-
register it, you won't be able to register it in your name.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll verify
Yeah.
that with them.
Yeah,
and
check
if
with-
that's the case, you probably want to apply for your own Oyster card.
I think so. Yeah, the cost of the Oyster card is actually, I think it's £5 just physically for the card. And you can recover that when you leave if you want to. So if you don't use the card, that's £5 more in the kitty and it's spread around. But if you want to do that, that's fine.
Okay.
Martha and I probably bring ours.
I bring my own.
It's just-
Now, the money that's on it, we'll be able to live with the other money, we'll be able to disaggregate it, but that's okay, it's only you using it. What was your question, Emma?
Oh, I just was verifying, because since everybody is getting theirs in London, so like, when I register it, it's not going to pop up in London.
It's not.
I have a second.
No, if you register, well,
You can't register it till you get to London. You'll go to one of the tube stops and you will ask them for a form to register it. They will give you one, you will fill it out, you will give it back to them there.
okay, great question, thank you. Spring term, as I said, we take care of that when you arrive. Now, in the email that you'll get today or at the latest tomorrow, with a number of attachments, please open and read the attachments, please, please, pretty please. Most of the questions I get are answered in the attachments that I've already sent, so please look at it. There is a student handbook, 44 pages in length, easy reading, whenever you want to do it, but please read through it. The most important thing the student handbook does is it will say exactly what you can expect from us, from Study Abroad, from the center and all of that, and what we will expect from you. It covers a whole wide range of things. Some of what's in there may or may not apply to us, and I'll mention a couple of things as we go through in a few minutes. The packing list that's there, probably need 3 or 4 suitcases for that. So I would err on the side of our advice rather than the advice in the handbook. If you want to carry 500 pounds with you all throughout Europe, that's fine, but I think you'll be happier with less. So take that. Many of the other things aren't as arbitrary as that are in there. Okay, things that have to be sent home or things that will cause problems for the group. Okay? So please read that before you write back and say I read it. This number 8 is absolutely super, super duper critical. Even before what's gone on this year in France, on the continent, in the United States, other places took place, one of the most tightly controlled borders was the UK. They are not part of the Schengen arrangement, which means that everybody going in and out of the UK is stopped at the border and checked. Their documents are checked. All those things are checked very, very carefully. UAE professors have been sent home from London back to the United States because they failed to do some of the things that we're going to talk to you about doing. If you think you're going to be funny and say the wrong things, you may well find yourself in a very difficult position. Don't make light of this, but do be honest. Be absolutely honest in all of your responses. Don't try and shade anything that you do. Here in Switzerland, probably the two most. All right. So anybody win or not yet? Okay, good. Read it very carefully. Follow the advice. Make sure that they've got a good address. If you're here in Provo, you can pick it up at the ISP office. But any of you, I'm speaking to those who are not on campus and who might not be here today, anybody who's not here, they need a really, really good mailing address because they have to mail that physical letter to you. It's a physical, not electronic letter that you need to carry with you. Okay? A couple of things I was advised on today when I checked to make sure about this. You will have to have this letter given to British Customs. You are students, but you're students at a BYU program. You're not students in an English university or a European university. So when you get, for example, to passport control in London, you may find that there's a line for students. You can't use that line because you're not on a student visa from the United States, and you're not a student in the EU agglomeration of countries. So you'll just have to tough it out with everybody else and get the lines with all of us entering the UK as ordinary people, ordinary travelers, business people and the like. All right? So it's not a student visa. Go up to the customs agent. They will ask you where you're going, how long you're going to be there, what you're doing. Be always obvious. Don't try to obfuscate at all. Be completely honest about it. If you say I'm a student, just say I'm a student at a BYU study abroad. It's an American program. And if they say do you have documentation of that, then you hand them the customs letter. You don't have to produce the customs letter unless they ask for it. But if they ask for it, you have to produce it, which means where does it have to be when you're flying? In your possession. Don't put it in your luggage. And you won't get to your luggage before you get to the customs, all right? So that should go with you inside your passport and be kept carefully with you the whole time you travel from wherever you're leaving in the United States till you go through border control. That letter will also be necessary when you travel on the continent and return to Great Britain, all right? Don't say you're going to work because you're not. You're not going to go over there and be paid. Don't even raise that spectrum. That's $1,000 visa that you have to apply for. We're not doing that. All right? Don't say you're going in. Don't say I'm going to study and do volunteer work because you're not. If you do volunteer work, it's completely not as a regular volunteer. You have to get a visa to actually do volunteer work as a foreign national in the UK. That's again $600, $800. You didn't apply for that, you're not getting it. So please don't say those things, just say what you are. I'm a student in a program, a Brigham Young University Study Abroad program in Utah, and I'm in London, at the London Center. We're up here in Kensington, Bayswater area, that kind of thing. If they ask for documentation, that's when you produce the customs letter. All right? And then they will get that. Any questions about that? It's the one time you may get your passport stamped, by the way. Okay, what did I say? Any questions at all? That's a really critical thing. The borders are really, and with what's going on now, the borders are just tight, okay? Number 9, I forgot to type this in. I have attended or reviewed all prep class sessions. If you haven't attended them all, please go to that site, send you an email with it. I'll probably add that email, blog site, Alex, Facebook site, whatever it is. Blog site. Go back and look at the ones you haven't seen. I think they're just called session 1, 2, 3, or 4, and just numbered 1 through 5. Some of it may be really, really boring, but almost all of it is important information. When you've completed that, apart from possibly number 4, send me an email saying I've done this. And if there's 1 or 2 things that you aren't going to be able to do by that time, please explain why so you'll know what we're doing. Okay? Yes?
And so for the spring people, number 8, and like number 4, do they still
Yeah.
want?
Don't, number 8, just be looking for it. Please just really pay attention as you get probably into March, I'm guessing. Brooke, I think probably March or something like that, you should be seeing it. If you don't see it by the end of March, you call ISD and say, hey, I thought I could do customs tax. Or maybe the first week of April. Any other questions? So EVA, easy exam, right? All right. So we've done that. Let's do a couple of things. We'll go more quickly through the rest of this. If some of you have to leave, see Justin. If you think you, some of you have to leave, that's fine. Just be sure to look at the rest of this. Travel items. Flights, I hope you've all got flights. If not, I hope you're really working on it. Spring term, you may have some time still to do it. I know some folks were trying that Norwegian Air Link, and Rachel, you just done that recently, looked at it, so.
I called them just to ask about luggage rooms, but I haven't actually looked into
okay.
flying tickets, so.
Anyway, however you get there, you understand that's up to you. However you get there and however you get back. Just make sure you're there by the start date. The 12th of January in the case of winter, and the 26th of April in the case of spring term. And then the last dates of the program, you can fly home then or anytime after that. You might be able, some of you asked about leaving a day or two early because summer term starts right after spring or as spring ends. You can clear that with us, but I don't think we'll have a problem with that. You may have to do some work in advance so that you can leave a day or so before the end of the program, if in the spring term you're leaving before that. Please.
So when you say get there, can you get there anytime? Like I'm doing spring, so on the 26th, could I get there at nighttime on the 26th, or is there like, we have to be there?
It's
first
best
week-
if you can get there in the morning, because we're gonna take you out walking and showing you some
Okay,
things.
I just want to make sure because there are like a couple different options.
Yeah. If the start date that I sent to you is the 26th, isn't that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we'd like you to be there by noon, 1, 2 at the very latest, if at all possible, and allow at least an hour from the airports. If you're at Gatwick, an hour and a half maybe. It's a little bit longer train ride, a little bit slower
And
sometimes.
which airport?
Well, if you're flying most of the major airlines, it'll be Heathrow. If you're flying Norwegian Air, if you've been on the continent or coming, it'll probably be Gatwick.
Okay.
I don't know that any of you fly to places like Stansted and things. Those are usually for European, but I, in one of the emails, I have an attachment that gives you almost step-by-step directions on getting, in fact, I've got that up there somewhere. Yeah, the next item is airport to center. No, it's just listed here, Mark. I don't have the email. So, airport to center, those directions are there. Make sure you see them.
If I didn't get that, can I send you an email? And you can send
Sorry?
it? I said I didn't get that, so could I just send you an email and you can?
I will probably send a bunch of those attachments in this email that I'll send you tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
Can you
So,
CC me on those?
I will. I'm sorry if I haven't sent it to you, Cecilia, but I will. But it's almost step-by-step direction,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
Even including the most recent estimates of how much it's going to cost you.
Okay.
By the way, those of you who do land in Gatwick, if you find that 3 or 4 of you are coming together, the cheapest way is to take the Gatwick Express, and you can, if in groups of 3 or 4, you can get 3 or 4 tickets for the price of 2. You can't do it in groups of 2 and get, one price, 2 tickets for the price of 1. But in groups of 3 or more, you can get about half off of that cost. So, and then once you get to London, you've got the tube, and it really walks you right down the neighborhood, tells you where to turn left, where to turn right, and how to get to the front door. So, if you don't find it, I don't know, find a Bobby, please.
So I know some of us for winter have flights arriving on the 11th.
Yes.
Are we allowed to come into the center earlier?
No, have I got that on there? Can we go? Oh, right. Go up a little bit more, maybe. These are points that I will. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's on here. Anyway, 2 points I made on this. The center, and if you read the handbook, you'll see it's clearly laid out there as well. And I think I sent this in an email to everybody at one time. They don't have any accommodation possibilities until the night of the 12th. So we want you on the 12th to arrive sometime during the day, check in. The night of the 12th will be your first night. The night of the 17th, as I recall, of April will be the last night that you'll have a bed there. On the 18th, you leave or go somewhere else. And so if you're staying on, even in London, you'll need to find some other accommodations.
Okay, so any of you guys arriving on the 11th, let's like book a hotel together.
There you go.
Pay extra.
Find some bed and breakfast, look at Airbnb, do those kind of things, see what you can do. Okay? Likewise, the same is true for the spring term, but it's just with different dates. And several of you emailed me, and I think I made this point, so I didn't always respond to your emails. I apologize. I know it's rude, but I think we have made this point that several of you asked, can I leave luggage at the center? And they won't do it. They create all kinds of problems. They clean the center to get ready for new groups. There's always a group coming whenever we're there. We're leaving. We can't even stay past. They give us a day or two to do all our grades, get everything sorted out, and then we're booted out. We can't stay there. We can't come earlier than a day or two before, and that's just so we can start a few things before you get there. But the same is true. They ask us not to leave luggage. For one thing, they don't want to have to worry about liability, and then there's just not space. Everybody would take advantage of it. So you need to find a storage locker if you have one, if you have a problem with that. So no luggage or housing outside of those periods. So if we scroll that back down for me just a second. No, the other way. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know my direction. Okay, after program study and in program study, and then this is related to, I wanted to talk for a moment about packing and stuff like that as well. I did have to pack and travel. You can bring whatever the airlines will allow you to bring and whatever you're willing to pay for. Okay, so if you want 3 suitcases big enough to sleep in, you bring them, that's fine. You'll pay, an exorbitant amount, that's okay with me. But none of you is going to want to travel with more than a carry-on, I promise you, after the program is over. You will regret bringing 2 or 3 bags that you try to truck around to Spain, to Greece, to Italy, even across Britain, to Scotland or Ireland. So I would really strongly encourage you to think about packing light, packing small, compressing things, being able to put it all in a carry-on size that meets those funny little standards. And when you fly on those airlines in Europe, the small airlines, they have taken our students who thought, well, I can cram this full of 15 extra pairs of jeans, and it still fits, I can zip it closed, but the bag is no longer this big, it's this big. They'll make you put it in the thing. If you can't get it in, they'll charge you. And typically it starts at €100 charge or so. So $100 to $150 charge for a bag you have to check instead of being able to carry on. So just, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't want to do that, bring a carry-on, expect it to be able to fit in those containers. I've never seen anybody do it in the United States. We have had students who said, oh my gosh, no problem. They get up there, they say, put it in the thing, $100, $200, $300 for your bag. So seriously, if you're traveling afterwards, you're going to end up being so much happier if you can keep everything small. Abandon things. After you've worn some of your clothing for 4 months, you don't want to see it again, let's be honest, okay? But I would just recommend after program travel, as light as possible, you'll be able to take less expensive transportation options. If you want to fly on Lufthansa and pay for a bag to be checked, that's great. And they need the money, they're struggling, so we're off big airline. But if you're struggling with money, just do it small. I did want to bring you all saw Martha's bag. When I mentioned this and forgot to bring them once, I oftentimes do this with clothing. You get these little bags everywhere. And you put half a dozen things in here, fill it really full, and then you roll it up, it squeezes all the air out, and it'll go from being this fat to about this fat. So that's one way of really compacting things to fit in a small space. There are a variety of options. Some of them you can do with vacuums, but you don't have a vacuum.
So, have one carry-on and have another carry-on in the back of that.
That's the next point I wanted to make. I don't know if I've got it up there. I probably don't. I guess I don't. The other point I want to make is that you do have to have something like a backpack. Because when we go on the continent, we're actually not going to allow you, except for 2 people who have to bring some medical equipment with them, we're not actually going to allow you to take that money from you. We'll get somebody, we got a whole bunch of designers going with us. I'll solicit some folks that want to come up with a really cool design. We'll screen some shirts, and if you do this, you can go around London 26 just even so what I'd ask you to do is, if you want to participate in either of those more organized things, I've got a Gmail address called irunlondon2016@gmail.com. You send me a quick email saying I want to participate, and I will send you some attachments about some things I want you to do. I actually want you to do a little bit of a test before we get there. I'm going to send you some information about what you should be looking for shoes. The only really critical piece of equipment you need to run well and effectively and long is the right kind of shoes. So I'll send you some attachments related to those things even before we leave for winter semester, and that'll help you get ready for that. And then periodically we'll exchange things through that mechanism as well. Those who are BYU students, winter semester, and want to do Run for Life, if you send me an email, I will communicate your information down to the PE folks or the intramural office, whoever it is that oversees this. They've told me that I can register you guys all that are in the relevant category of winter BYU students, and then they'll fill out the cards for you. All you'll need to do, I'll give you the address, and email you miles every so often, and then when you get done, you can pick it up and get home. Of course, I'll leave it pick it up for you. Okay? All right, so that's the running. If you just want to run, we'll just run. And if you want to join us and you don't want to do all this other razzmatazz, that's okay too. If you don't want to run 75 or 150, you think maybe 5 miles in 4 months is good enough for you, that's okay. I'm good. I'm good. I will say that when we do the group runs, my feeling is that if we do end up staying together as a group, that we learn the pace of the slowest run. We won't leave anybody behind. We have, Bryn, are you here? Bryn's not here. We have somebody coming who's on the BYU cross country team. You know, her warm-up pace is about twice my fastest 5K pace. That's how it is. And some of the workouts, what we'll do is go out and I'll describe the workout, and you'll run in groups. So we'll be in Hyde Park, we can see each other, we'll be safe. But you know, if our workout is to do 5 intervals of, say, quarter mile or something like that, then you can get in groups of ability and, run as fast as you want with those groups, and those who want to go slower, who want to walk farther, we'll do that. So
I'm taking way, way slow, so.
Martha and I are going to be the pace cars.
So don't let that put you off. It's an opportunity to just keep a little bit of fitness, to have some fun. And when, to the extent we can, I do want to go out and do some historical runs in some parts of the city where I feel like it's safe enough and we can do without too much trouble to go out and run through some neighborhoods that I'll talk to you about before we go there, and talk about the history in the background or important events that occur there. So we'll be a little bit historical and a bit physical at the same time. And if you want to do it once and then I want to do it again, okay. All right, any questions on that? All right. Final thing, conduct. Okay, when we talked about this, we talked about the one. Don't be the one. Don't be the one that's always late. Don't be the one that always forgets his or her pass. Don't be the one that's always got to have an exception made for whatever reason. There are 41 of us, plus a bunch of other folks. We really need everybody's participation to make all of this happen as well and as fruitfully and as productively as possible. On occasion, we're all the one, a little bit that happens on occasion, but if you're the one every day, then it'll be a problem. Let's just put it that way. So please plan on coming and truly being part of the group. If you like the solitary experience, that's great. Do it another time. Okay? This is the time to be community-minded, to be group-minded, to be generous, to be open. Cooperation, collaboration, selflessness are really the order of the day. We'll have a fantastic time if those are the characteristics of our interactions. If the opposites of those are the characteristics of our interactions, it'll be miserable, not just for you, but for everyone. Be willing to do things. You may be asked to do some things that you wouldn't do at home or on campus. I mean, nothing inappropriate or immoral or immodest, but you might be asked to do things that are, not your first preference. All right. Participation, absolutely critical. You've heard me say this so many times in that interview. I'm sure you're tired of hearing it. If you're not participating, you may as well stay home. If you're not participating in the events that we're going to be doing or on the content, there's no reason to be there. You can sit at home and go and look at slides and all you're going to do is that. We want you to be engaged all the time. Be curious and then be engaged. All right? Anything else either of you want to add that I left off? Please.
I know the winter students, somebody created a Facebook London Winter Study Abroad 2016 page. I don't think anyone's done that for spring yet, have they? Anyone there? Oh, they have one? Okay. So if you haven't like linked into either of those pages on Facebook, I'm finding it rather useful because I found that other students besides my boys wanted to go see Hosier in London on January 30th. So lots of people are like saying, you know, are you interested in seeing this? Is anybody interested in seeing this? So it's a good way to kind of interact with each other before going to, and yes, I did get tickets for my husband and I and my boys, and I'm not embarrassed at all to admit that. Anyway, so it's a good way to connect with each other and start making some plans.
I will add that attachment to the email that I sent to you. If you haven't looked at that, it's an attachment that has both the winter and spring Facebook groups information. Malia, are you here? Malia? I think I saw her. She's administering the one for spring, and Becky Garden, who's in Washington right now, is good. So most of you been on and looked, and is it valuable? Yeah? Good. I'd suggest doing that. It's a good way to get to know one another a little bit. Please.
I say, people in Winter Spencer who want to go to Harry Potter, I'm buying tickets on Monday. So if you want to be part of the group, great, or whatever, send it to me by Monday.
And this would be a great way we can communicate. One of the things that will happen when you're there in London is we have in the past tried to have cultural awareness kind of groups who committees were responsible for going out and getting a list of things going on. We just found that a dramatic failure because usually it's the interests of the 5 people who are on the committee that get represented and everything else gets left to one side. We're going to ask you to, you live in a world of crowdsourcing and Facebook and who knows what else, stuff I don't completely understand. We're going to ask you, while we're in London, both winter and spring, to be aware of things, and we're going to find a way, either electronically or might even do the old-fashioned thing of having a big bulletin board where people post, this is going on and I want to go, that kind of thing, and share those experiences. Some of you have come up to me and said, I like, you've heard me talk about going to the small theaters. I love going to the small bar theaters. There's 25 people in the audience, and the actors are sitting in your lap. I mean, you won't have a more intimate theatrical experience than that. But somebody has to find those out, publicize it, and no, you don't have to drink. Although if it's hot, if you want to take some water or a fruit juice, but anyway, we want to all have those experiences. Somebody finds out there's a special ballet production or a matinee at a ballet, and you're just, we've got some very passionate dancers in this group, and you want to do that, that's fine. Maybe there's a designer show or something going on, so everyone we have design interest. All kinds of interests. And so we want to share that as widely as possible and truly have this be an immersive experience. I can't say it enough. The outcome of this study abroad is more dependent on you than it is on Martha and me and Cecilia. It truly is. We will provide what we're going to provide. I think it's high quality. I think the goal is saying it's great. But the rest of it is up to you, and that's a big chunk of your time. So if you make it something big, it'll be big. If you make it great, it'll be great. If you entertain every interest instead of sitting at home just looking at Facebook at night, you say, I'm going to go out and do that. I've never done it before. I'm going to try it. You'll come home a different person. So, Martha, anything else?
That's it.
If not, let's get back into the oh my gosh, one of the great masterpieces.
You guys, I just want to, before we get started here, say thanks to my husband. He doesn't get paid a penny for this, and he does it all volunteer. And frankly, I don't know about Cecilia, but I'd be drowning at this point in time if he hadn't taken such good care of all of you in the program. And I just want to give him an end.
I get paid enormously. You couldn't give me enough money to do this, but the rewards I get from knowing you folks really are.
It's really a reward in life. I'll be honest with you. I told my wife this, and I may have told some of you this. I had about 150 to 160, 170 interviews. I don't know. Some of you know you were waiting out there for hours for me to finish.
I came away from that process as an old man who's a little bit skeptical and cynical about some things in the world, thinking, we're okay. These young people,
you know, they're the future that we all hope to have in this world. And I'm really honest about that. It's a form of payment that you can't get from, you know, from silver and gold. And so thank you for being willing to do this and put up with some of the, you know, inevitable difficulties that are present. But we love y'all, and get to know you and love you even more.
And
Thanks.
he'll treat you like his kids, and you know what? He'll cry like this every time.
I do.
he talks to you.
Sorry. It's who I am.
That's who he is. But I'm really grateful to him. Anyway, we're gonna pick up where we left off last time. Did I see a hand? Was somebody raising their hand? Okay. We're gonna pick up where we left off last time. So because I don't know everybody's name yet, I promise by the time you get there, I will. I'm just gonna point, and I'm going to ask you questions, okay? And what I want you to do is tell me what you remember last time. If you had to tell me what the contributions were in terms of the Greeks and the Romans to our civilization today, could you name me some things? What do you think?
Classical sculptures.
Sculpture, exactly. Art, sculpture, incredible contributions to who we are today. And also we'll add on architecture, right? Architecture that you see all over the place, right? The space of the classical tradition. Is that what you were going to say? Okay, who else? What else did we get from the Greeks and Romans? Yeah. Philosophy, exactly right. What else? Who else has something? Yeah. Government, political structures, exactly right. Mathematics, our interest in history. A lot of, we talked about an edible complex. Where did that come from? Oedipus, right?
Sophocles.
Okay? All right. So a lot of the things that we are today come from that classical culture, the Greeks and the Romans. Who build on that. And still all today, you know who Venus is, you know who Zeus is, you know those things because they have become part of our tradition. Okay, that became the pagan culture, right? When we enter into, what's the next era? What's the next really big, important period historically? After the ancient Greeks and Romans, who comes next? The Middle Ages, the medieval culture, right? What governs this culture? Are they known for philosophy? Are they known for their interest in science? Yeah.
Christianity.
Christianity, exactly right. The church. And the church spreads throughout Europe and dominates everybody's lives from the minute you're born to the minute you die, right? You're under the power of the church. Now they come up with their own form of architecture, their own forms of painting and sculpture that we talked about last time, and we're going to see the most magnificent Gothic cathedral ever when we go out to Sharp. You're going to love it, I promise, okay? All right, so what period do we talk about next? I'm going to ask Jackie, who's the art history major. What comes next after the medieval? After the medieval. The Renaissance, exactly right. What does that word mean, Mary Margaret? Rebirth of what? What is it? What's the rebirth of, Kim? Culture of who? The Greeks and Romans, right? We neglected them for centuries, literally centuries, right? And now we go back and we revive that culture in the Renaissance. But it doesn't just mean a rebirth of classical civilization. When we use that word Renaissance, what other ideas come to mind? What other associations? What else happens during the Renaissance? What do we think about? It's a time of what? Enlightenment, exactly right. Great writing, great arts. Philosophy gets revived, right? An interest in science gets revived. So away from explaining everything via Christianity and via the church now, to beginning to look back to Aristotle, look back to Plato, right? What they had contributed to Western culture. All right, so the Renaissance. We have a couple of different Renaissances going on then. In some cases, it simply means something new and different is happening than that old medieval tradition. And when we start with the Renaissance in the North, in particular, we're going to talk about that kind of Renaissance. In other words, they don't have Greek and Roman architecture all around them, right? That wasn't their history, that wasn't their past. But something new is happening in the North. And this particularly happens in France and the Netherlands, the lowlands countries, because of the power of some very wealthy patrons known as the Dukes of Burgundy. Have you heard of them? a lot of wealth, a lot of power, even more so than the King of France, and they start paying for a lot of art. So we have this new art form that is starting to appear that still has what kind of subject matter? What's the subject matter here, Rachel? Who is this? Recognize anybody? Who would you guess?
Constantinople.
That's an interesting one, huh? Who's the guy in red? Who's the guy in red, would you guess?
Maybe Charlemagne. I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Okay, well, we'll get that down to basics here. Any ideas? Who is the guy in red? It's Christ, exactly right. It's Christ, okay? So it's still what kind of art? But you know, you guys, you know, if you haven't ever seen this stuff, that would have been a natural assumption, okay? That it was somebody of import politically. But he is a Christian figure. So my point is this: do we become suddenly a non-Christian culture during the Renaissance? Absolutely not. Christianity continues on through, even if we're going back and we're reviving pagan philosophies, okay? Or pagan culture. All right, so Christ still the central focus then of a lot of the art produced. But when we think about this in comparison with the medieval things that we looked at, how do we tell that a Renaissance has begun? A new era has begun. What's different about this in comparison to the medieval things we saw last time? Think of those statues standing along the doorways that we saw, right? What's the difference? These look more what?
Rachel's got an answer, Martha.
Exactly right. They look more believable, more realistic, right? More like real human beings here. All right, so I look at a real human body and I try to depict it as it is, not just to tell a Christian story, not just as a symbol of something, but of a real person looking at the world around them once again, rather than just being caught up with Christian theology. Okay? All right, so they start to look at the real world, an Aristotelian kind of approach. Aristotle, who's a science major in here, father of science, right? Empirical investigation, looking at the world around him, right? So that is one aspect now of this culture, is beginning to look again at the world around them.
You know what? All of you that are engineers in here, you should have raised your hands on that one, right? Okay. Stand
Okay.
up for the science.
All right. So they begin to become interested in science and mathematics. You can see in a painting like this, for example, this is now an Italian, Renaissance work. So not up in the north, but down in Italy. And they have Greek and Roman architecture, yeah? It looks Greek and Roman, yeah? Columns and capitals and so on. A revival then of this ancient civilization, this ancient culture that comes together with this contemporary Christian culture, all right? And somehow they meld, all right? Somehow it's no longer seen as problematic that you're reading Plato, that you are looking back to classical sculptures and classical architecture and so on. So in Italy, it truly is a blending then of that classical culture with the contemporary Christian culture. They too are still dealing with themes of Christianity. They are still a Christian society, right? But their art, as you can see, is becoming more science-based, more math-based. They know what a human torso looks like. They even create geometric shapes and forms, symmetrically balancing, meaning if I cut a line through this, equal on both sides, right? What kind of a shape do we have here? What kind of a shape is this? A triangle, exactly right. Ordered, mathematical, again, okay? Looking to the sciences and math of the past. All right, so the Renaissance culture, we have an efflorescence now, a flourishing of art, of literature, even music at this period of time that isn't so constricted by the church anymore. The church losing its power in decline then from the Renaissance on is going to be one of our major themes over there, okay? How strong it is in the Middle Ages, and then how it gradually is on the decline. Who heard the French ambassador speak this week? Anybody go to it? Oh, you guys, you should have been. All of you should have been. But one of the things he talks about is the gradual secularization unification of France as a country, separation of church and state and so on, and not wanting to have an overlap between those things, even though France is still largely a Christian country, a Christian society. But that's going to be one of our major things, and when we get to the continent in particular, we're going to see how secularized societies have become in Europe, okay? Not wanting any overlap between church and state. So that will be one of our major themes. But as we pointed out last time, constantly looking back to the classical, constantly looking back to that classical tradition that set the pattern for our society from antiquity on. Okay, this is another great painting done by Raphael, and guess who's right in the middle here? One pointing up and one pointing down. This is called the School of Athens, this painting here. Who's pointing up, would you guess?
Plato.
Plato. Who said that? Why, McKinnon? Why Plato?
He's an idealist.
He is. He's thinking about things beyond the visible world, right? Whereas Aristotle is our scientist, our empiricist, right? Categorizing things, understanding the world via characteristics that you could experience with your senses, yes, okay? Whereas Plato is talking about ideas, ideals. Very good, McKinnon. Nice job, okay? Things beyond this, beyond the physical world. Then they're surrounded by Alexander the Great and Diogenes, the great orator of antiquity. Ptolemy, Euclid, the great astronomers and the great mathematicians of antiquity. All right, this is in the Pope's apartments. The Pope, the Christian Catholic Pope, okay? This is painted on his wall. Okay, so what did I just tell you happens in the Renaissance? That medieval Christian world comes together with that classical antique world just seamlessly. Nobody has any problems that Plato and Aristotle are on the Pope's walls, okay? So that's what I'm trying to get to you here, is how important that classical tradition is going to be, and it will just keep recurring again and again, and we are so lucky to have Cecilia with us, who can just immediately tell us, that's the story of so-and-so, that's the myth of such and such, okay? I mean, really, you guys are so fortunate that she's coming. It will just be so fun. All right.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
If you go away from this program without appreciating how much you today in the 21st century are still a product of classical Athens and classical Rome, you will have missed out on what it means to be part of the Western world in Britain, on the continent.
Exactly.
You'll come home saying, you know, I'm part of a grand tradition that's now multiple thousands of years old, and I understand better who I am and where I fit in the world. And it's also a point of, it's one of the contemporary points of contention in the world we live in. Those who are seeking to overturn the importance of that worldview are the folks that are out there trying to destroy all of this, to disaggregate it, to say, you know, can you imagine that painting? Go back to that painting. Can you, can you imagine that on al-Baghdadi's wall, you know, the head of the Islamic State? Not a chance. It's reaction to this understanding of us as humans and our development as humans that those folks are reacting
It is
against.
under attack, yeah.
And I hope that you come away with a new appreciation for that even in the 21st century, you know, those Greeks, they knew something, and those Romans, they left us a heritage. It's very real. It's in our souls still today. Sorry.
No, that's true. Our architecture, same thing. Basically, this is a Christian church. You guys, this is a small church, but it looks like a Roman building. Yeah, it looks like a classical piece of architecture here. All right, we'll skip over this because we don't have a whole, or we really don't have a lot of time. Okay, the next thing after the Renaissance. What's the next cultural era that you can think of that comes after the Renaissance? Somebody said it? The Baroque, exactly right, the Baroque, okay. This is the time of crisis. There is so much drama going on during the 16th and 17th centuries because what really important watershed moment takes place in the 16th century that changes Christianity forever?
First name's Martin.
Martin Luther, exactly right, okay? Martin Luther and the beginnings of Protestantism. This is going to divide Christianity, right? Pretty much we've got the North becoming Protestant, the South remaining Catholic, and it is a war. So much so that if you go out on the street and somebody asks, are you Protestant or are you Catholic? And you give the wrong answer, you're killed, okay? You're dead, all right? When we took our kids to Vienna for a year, they had to declare their religion at the school. And you either went to the Protestant class or you went to the Catholic class. Because of this still really strong division between Catholicism and Protestantism in Europe, such that Catholic parents don't want their kids being taught Protestantism and vice versa. All right, so it is still a really strong division in Europe today. But you can see how this is going to weaken the church more and more, right? If, you know, half of the LDS faith decided to all leave at once, you can imagine what that would do to our church, right? So it is a time of crisis. And Rome is fighting to bring people back to the church, and they are building incredibly dramatic, grand, ostentatious, emotional, theatrical works of art to say, come back to the Catholic Church. We're right. They're wrong. They're all going to hell. If you follow that heresy, you will burn in hell. Okay? So a lot of dramatic works of art then coming out of the Baroque and dramatic music. This is the time of opera. Yeah? Opera, when you're just being inundated by all your senses being caught up in costumes and the libretto and the music and the lights and this glorious kind of spectacle. And think of that in Baroque. Spectacle, okay? It is spectacle to convince people of things. Yeah.
I'll just add, because obviously I have a bias for the classical side of things. Opera was actually invented, it was an attempt to revive Greek tragedy. Because tragedy was considered the most inclusive artistic genre, because there was poetry, there was stage production, there was painting, there was music, there was dance, all of that happened in a tragic theater. And so opera was actually an attempt to recreate that, to create the modern version of the most inclusive art form.
Exactly.
So opera really has everything.
Good. And by the way, that classical tradition just keeps going through the Baroque, okay? People who call themselves classicists. And Italy is still the place you come as an artist, as a musician, as a great philosopher, thinker. Italy is still considered that cradle then of important ideas associated with Western civilization. All right, and it will really remain so until France sort of overtakes them in the modern period. Okay, all right, so a lot of dramatic religious art. Anybody recognize the story here? Who's just fallen off his horse, having a vision? Saint Paul, yeah, on his way to Damascus. Elevation of the cross scenes here. Images then that were meant to bring people back to the Catholic Church, to make them believe in the doctrines that had been established by the Catholic Church, rather than to follow Protestantism in the North. Okay. It's also during this era that we start to have a challenge to old governmental systems as well. So not only the old traditional Catholic Church, but governmental systems. Okay, how had kings been able to remain in power all through Western history up until this point in time? Why did you support somebody as your king? Somebody said it, John, right, exactly right. Meaning, what does that mean?
They were given the power to rule from God.
From God.
You
So
believe
do you
God.
dare disobey somebody who was chosen by God, right? Okay, these were superhuman beings, yes? People who had been chosen by God to rule. Okay, what if you suddenly say, hey, I don't think you were chosen by God to rule. It's pretty easy not only to disobey them, but to cut their heads off, right? And to decide we are going to have a Republican form of government now, or Democratic form of government. Again, looking back to our Greek and Roman friends. And by the way, you're going to see the place where they cut this guy's head off, okay? When we go to the banqueting hall in London, you're going to see the patio where they took Charles and beheaded him, okay? So a challenge to old traditional kinds of norms in Western culture. Well, we're almost out of time. And again, an increasing interest in science. We get to the 18th century and we get to the age of reason, the Enlightenment as it's called, right? These interests in science continue, but also interest in new forms of government and Republican forms of government, philosophies that spawn our United States, okay? Ideas that come over from the continent about everybody is born with certain inalienable rights. Did Thomas Jefferson come up with that? It came from the French, okay, which basically came from the Greeks and Romans, right? All right, so ideas that are continuing and lasting in our culture from those very beginnings. Okay, we will see this, okay? Versailles, all right? It is the opposite of what we've just been describing, absolutism in its extreme. Greg hates going there because he thinks about all the people starving to death for this lavish display here. But it is an incredible palace built by Louis XIV.
It's pretty extravagant.
Okay. Oh, this is a great reminder of classicism. In the 19th century, we actually have a phase called neoclassicism, meaning we're going to go back and revive the costumes, the stories, the architecture, all of those things from the classical past. Interestingly, Thomas Jefferson does come to Europe at this period of time, and he brings back classical style, designs his own home in classical style. So we're just going to see a repetition of this tradition going on and on through to the modern period. We don't have time for any more. I'll leave it at that. We'll go back and review these things, so don't worry about it, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the kind of things we'll be doing. Okay? Love you guys. We'll talk soon, either by email or some other way.
Let me just make one announcement, some of you may not have heard. Greg and Martha are leaving the country on December 14th, but my husband and I will be around until we leave on January 8th. So if you need to talk to me after Greg's left, because he's our great fount of information on all things study abroad, but if you need to talk to someone on campus between now and the beginning of January, we'll still be in town.
I hope you're getting excited. I mean, this is just a drop in a very large ocean you're going to be swimming in very soon. Have a great holiday. We'll see some of you in January and some of you next
Australian, I guess, right? Nice to have you back. This is our final session. I apologize for being a little late. I got here way early to get the camera and stuff, only to find when I arrived that some of you not turned back your library books and the things you borrow. None of the camcorders got turned back. So we had to kind of scramble, and we're trying to make sure we've got some kind of a picture on this for the folks who are here today, for those of you who told me you have to leave early. Today's a really critical day information-wise. This is going to be pretty dense. We're going to essentially review much of what we've covered, plus additional information from the last 5 sessions. In the time that's remaining, Martha is going to continue her discussion, I think, going from Renaissance forward to the present, if you have time. She's in a thesis defense, one of her students will get here as soon as she can. Dr. Pete will be back in a moment with your final. We all want to do the final, right? It's essentially a take home. You're all going to love it. It's going to be great, so don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. But today is a pretty critical day. You may want to take some notes. I plan to send, oh, there we are. Thank you. I plan to send to everyone, not just those who aren't on campus here with us. That'd be great. I plan to send to everyone an email that will have a number of things that I'm going to describe to you today, so that will all be in there as well, so you can review it. Take some notes today. The course outline, the session outline for today, I will send you that as well, and you can put some things in as you like. Today is also an important day to answer questions. A number of you have asked me questions today. I apologize. I was in a place for over the Thanksgiving week where the internet access was really spotty at best, and so I didn't get much opportunity to respond. And I've been a little bit under the weather this week, and so I know that I've got a backlog of a bunch of emails. hopefully I can answer all your email questions either in the course of our public discussion or later on. If not, then I'll try and respond to your email questions as well. Anyway, I hope you're getting excited. Things are getting very close. I do want to give you a couple of important dates. A week from next Monday, Martha and I will be on our way to London temporarily. And then if things work out, we're going to do something that you're all going to be envious of. We're going to a wonderful little town called Rye, stay in a smuggler's inn, have a good time for a couple of days, and then on to Asia with our children. So I tell you that because while most of you are leaving in January, if there are pressing things that you need to ask us, we will have internet access for a time, particularly in England will be good. The Philippines and Thailand will be a little bit more spotty depending on where we're staying. In Bangkok, no problem. In Hill Country, Alex, Cambodia may be more iffy. So if there are things that are pressing, try, and I will try to respond more promptly from now until I leave, and then in England as well.
And
So-
if you CC me on those emails,
Yeah.
my husband and my kids and I, we're not leaving until January 8th. So we'll be in Provo for
So,
the holidays.
so there's a couple of points of contact. Aaron Rose in the Kennedy Center said that he would answer some questions and things. So we're not trying to leave you in the lurch, but we'll try and get most things largely settled, particularly for the winter group before we leave. Presumably we get everything together and get on the plane a week from Monday. So, all right. Then after that, the next time we expect to see most of you will be the 12th of January. And it looks like a good time. Some of you had questions about the weather. I would say that today is a good example of what most winter days will be like in London, although more humid, obviously. There's no moisture in our air here, so it'll be more humid there. So probably that sort of temperature, that kind of chill, that kind of thing. So for those of you in winter, that's probably going to be the start of our semester. It will warm up considerably by the end and be much warmer in spring term. In Paris, it will actually probably be a little bit warmer than it was today. We spent a couple of winters in Paris, and only once do I remember snow. They had a huge snowstorm. It was about that thick, and people were stranded on the freeway overnight. When you don't have snow, it's a whole new ballgame. Anyway, so judge accordingly. Today might be a good sample of what's likely to be nice. If it rains, it'll be much more unpleasant, obviously. So just for that. So I'd like to launch into a couple of things real quickly. First, I want to talk about this final. Is that going? Yeah. Good. I want to talk about the final. The final is fairly easy for you to do. I'm going to hand you a sheet that you take home, but I'm also going to email it to you. Essentially, if you hope to get an A in this class, I thought it was pass-fail, but apparently it is graded. Martha and Cecilia and I have decided that there's a checklist of, I think it's 9 things, that if you complete that checklist, that you'll receive an A in the class. We'll go through that. It'll be fairly straightforward. I think it'll be easy to do.
It's all stuff they need to do anyway.
They're things you need to do. If you don't complete some of these, you can't actually go on study abroad. You won't be seeing it. So, but essentially what we'd like you to do is review all of these things and take care of those that you haven't done that you can take care of. Some of them, especially for the spring semester students, are going to be a little further out in their accomplishment. But most of all but one of the items on this list can probably be done by this weekend or next weekend at the very latest. So I'd like you to go through. This is a self-reported thing. Go through, make sure you've done all of those things. You've done your due diligence. When it says read the student handbook, it actually means read all 44 pages. Those kinds of things. Okay? So there won't be any surprises, and you won't have any problem with it. Turn away the border. You won't be unhappy because you're rooming with somebody that you absolutely said not to be rooming with, all those kind of things. So please look at the list, go through it, and when you complete it, send me an email saying, I have finished this. When do we have to submit grades?
Well, it won't be probably till even after Christmas, but you guys need to be done with this before that. Finals week ends what, the 17th or something like that? So let's say the 17th is the last day to get this done, okay? Because we have to submit your grades anyway by then, so we'll have to give you a grade for this class by then.
And as I said, there's one item on there that you may still have to do after the 17th. But if you have every intention of doing it, well, frankly, if you don't do it, you can't go. They won't let you go. You can't come. We'll rent your room out to a homeless person. So they'll all ultimately have to be done, and only one of them really has to go beyond the 17th for some of them. So you can do them. You can frankly probably finish it this weekend. Please do that if you can at all, okay? And then send me an email. I'll record it to submit the grade. It'll be good. Those of you who are not BYU students and were not required to sign up for this class, and I'm talking to all the folks on the jam listening or watching this eventually on the camera especially, even though you're not required to do the final, I still expect all of you to go through that checklist and send me a note saying, I've done these things. So even if you're not registered for the class, send me a note saying, I'm done, because that means I'm essentially ready to go, apart from packing and getting on the plane and stuff like that. Okay? Fair? Any questions about that part of it? So I wonder if we should start. Some folks have to leave early, so let's just go ahead. You want to pass that around?
Here, I'll pass.
Yeah. And then I'm going to start talking, and when we get a chance, I'll put this on the screen.
We'll just skip every other.
Is that all right?
Oh, what do you want me to do that?
When you get those passed out, if I can have you throw my flash drive away. Okay, so let's start. We want to leave some time for Martha to bring us the Renaissance up as a present, so hopefully we'll have a bit of time to do that at the end. We're going to go through all the administrative, that kind of stuff, and some of the questions you have hopefully will be answered, or I will take a note and we'll get them answered very soon. I want to start with something that probably is or should be on your minds and maybe on your parents' minds. Just review very briefly a couple of fundamentals about safety. As we've seen, I've said this over and over, the most important thing that we heard in the safety presentation, and the thing that I think I have reviewed a couple times with you, is this: there is no absolute security in the world we live in. Nowhere. You go to a Christmas party, somebody decides to come in and take out a bunch of coworkers. You go to the post office and somebody's gone crazy. You go to school, unfortunately, or even little kids go to school and somebody comes and does some nasty things. So there is nowhere in the world, including the places that we will live and travel, that I can guarantee that you will be absolutely safe. So you need to know that from the outset. In the risk and release section of the application, that is made very clear that we do everything to keep you as safe and keep you in safe places as possible. And that if you follow the suggestions we make, that you'll probably all be safe, but there is no guarantee. Having said that, I don't think any of us should be worried about places we're going, places we're going to visit, places we'll be living. You may have seen the news reports recently with these two recent mass shootings in Colorado and in California. A fairly startling statistic. I think it's really a pretty damning commentary on our society, that there have been more than one mass shooting in the United States a day this year. So you're not safe anywhere, you're not safe here, if you just happen to be in the wrong place. But if you do the things we ask you to do, I think we'll have the best chance of everybody being safe and well. And most of the places we go, I frankly feel much more at ease and at home and safe than I do sometimes in Provo, certain parts of Salt Lake, certainly in neighborhoods in New York City and Chicago and Los Angeles. So I think you'll find that we're going to be in safe places. So I hope that your concerns haven't been unduly raised by what's going on. We do live in a very uncertain world. Fortunately, as LDS people, we also, I hope, don't, if things happen, we know that this is not the end of everything that's important to us. So I hope that we can do this and feel comfortable and confident everywhere we go. We will probably modify just a little bit some of the things we do as a group just to make sure that we're a little bit extra safe. Some of you that want to go jogging with me, I probably will not go to some of the neighborhoods that we previously went to, just simply because with the group of 20 or 30 people, we're pretty public and pretty visible. We'll just have to be a little bit more cautious about things like that. I'd encourage you to be safe when you travel. Never, ever should you travel. Even the big guys like Kyle and Nick ought to have somebody with them when they travel, much less any of the guys in the group. So some of those kind of precautions are wise. Travel with people, particularly if it's evening hours at all. Please travel with someone. When we travel as a group, try not to be as obvious and obtrusive as we sometimes are as Americans, and excited and enthusiastic. I mean, we ought to share that, but in a somewhat more restrained manner than we sometimes do other places. And I think to the extent that we don't try to mention to ourselves, we're going to be just fine. I feel confident in saying we're going to have a great time, and all of you will have a wonderful time. I can't promise you that no man won't at your bottom on the metro or on the tube, or that someone won't say inappropriate things to you, male or female. Those are just part of living in large cities and other places, but we will do our best to respond to those. Secondly, I'd say the advice Martha gave you, females especially, if you are feeling harassed, even if it's not verbal, or somebody is staring at you or paying you unwanted attention, you need to be assertive. Even if you're the most mousy of people, the most timid of people, you need to be assertive. And if there's nothing wrong with saying, "What are you looking at?" If somebody touched you, you make a point of it. Don't just let it pass. Turn the other cheek another time. Okay. I hope I'll be forgiven for saying that. But it is important that you, particularly as females in the world we live in, that you be willing to be somewhat assertive about your person and about your right to move unmolested through society. Okay? Fair enough? What were you going to say?
Oh, I have a question. Will we be getting like keys to our center, like the
My understanding is that it's a number pad, number code. So I think that we said this, but I'll review this when we go over housing. One of the absolute no-nos, absolute no-nos, is giving that code out to anybody else. I don't care how friendly they are. I don't care how many missions they've served. I don't care if they walk on water. You don't give them that number. It's not only for your safety, but it's for everybody else's safety. Not only the property, but the person. So, since, as I understand it, isn't that right? There are no keys.
There are no keys. It's a coded pad for everybody, but that's the critical thing. It's for you and you alone. Don't give it out to anybody else.
And no matter how many times we say this to students, many of the hotels we've stayed in on other study abroad programs where we travel a lot, and we're in hotels for 2 or 3 days and then move on. And we say to students, don't do things like in those hotels. We say, never ever prop anything in the door so it can stay open just because you don't want to have to bother to put the code in. I'm going to go down the hall and do something, I'll be right back. I can't tell you that that's an open invitation for problem. We've had more problems. In fact, one of the children of one of the study abroad officials over at the ISD office was on a program, decided to prop his door open, took his camera, his roommate's camera, his wallet, his passport. I mean, in 30 seconds, you can lose everything. So the things we tell you, particularly as we travel or in different places, when we're on the continent, don't ever prop your doors open. Don't ever give out those codes to anybody else. If you forget it, there's a way to recover it. Don't ever do that, all right? And for the London Center, it's just like, that has to be, a secret that you carry to your grave, sort of thing, okay? All right, thanks for that question. All right.
That what you wanted?
I actually want the other one up.
You just have the one final name?
No, it's final session.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Go back to that one. Leave it. Okay. Now, you've all got one in front of you, right? Final exam? Oh, there are some that don't have them still. Okay. Raise your hand if you don't have them.
I missed your row after all. It's okay.
Let me go real quickly through this because I know there's a couple of people who leave a little bit early. And shame on me.
Anybody else in this room?
We'll love you so. If you do leave early today, please go back and watch this video. And there's an awful lot of information. Real quickly then, for the final exam, we need to, a number of things need to be checked off. I think I've got most passwords, but there's still a couple that I don't have. That's absolutely critical. If it's not going to come before the 17th, when you have to say, I'm done, would you let me know if you're still waiting on your passport? I don't think anybody in the winter group, I think I've got, do I have all the winter group ones? Anybody in winter not have a passport yet? Okay. We need a copy of that passport page. You guys get yours? Oh, fantastic, okay. Second, those of you who are not, and this may be speaking to this crowd, but maybe a couple of you, if you're not BYU, full-time BYU students currently, we need a passport-style photograph. It doesn't have to be that formal. This has to be a headshot without glasses and hat and things on, that they and sent electronically to that address, rose_assistant@byu.edu. These are for passes that we will use in France to help us get in to museums and some other places. So if you are enrolled at BYU, we have your picture, even if you don't like it. And if you're not at BYU, if we could get them by Monday at the very latest, it would be wonderful.
You guys, this is really serious because we're going to be taking off soon and we need those passes done. So you really, she's been asking for them for a while now, so you absolutely have to get these in right away to Sarah so that you can have these cards to get into the museums and things.
Can I add something here? So my boys need, my husband and I, anyway, she needed a couple from us still as well. And I was thinking, oh, we need to get new we need to find their passport picture. She said, just take a picture with your phone and email it to me.
Absolutely.
So you can just do that. Just stand with a plain background,
That's
do
right.
a selfie,
No,
send it to
don't
Rose
take
under-
another
Do it right now if you haven't sent it.
I mean, just, your boyfriend's taking a shot of you.
You can do
really
it against this
like,
wall.
Send it, okay? Send out, eliminating compromising material. Send it. You need that? If you're undressed below the waist, that's like you. Send the headshot, okay? Please.
I look really different in my BYU ID photo. Can I send them another one?
If you want to, but I wouldn't
No,
worry about it. Quite honestly, the guards don't look that hard at them, but they expect
But
a photo.
they do need to have a picture of it.
Some
My
of you-
husband and his
Although we
husband
did have a
like a
student
serial
once,
killer.
their passport photo was so bad that when we go through the border control, they'd actually put it up and show each other and just break out laughing.
It's my driver's license. Third, this one you can all do. Many of you have it, not all of you have. Item 3 there. When you fill out your application, there are 4 items there that you can go on and click on them. It'll come up with a page that you read through. You say, I agree, and then you move on to the next ones. You're accepting to go in the program. You don't have to worry about any immunizations. We're not going to have that as a problem. You go in and say, I've read that and it's okay. Conditions of participation, go through and make sure you're comfortable with what we're being asked, what we're asking you to do, and then list and release. Please do that. That's simple to do. Take a couple minutes today, get it done. Number 4 is the only item that may not be finished before the deadline that you have to send us the email back saying I'm done. I'll understand that because you won't be able to go if you don't have it. Travel itinerary to ISD. Now, how many of you have had trouble? I hear that quite a few have had trouble inputting it. Has somebody got it in? And tell us, Allie.
We just emailed, or I emailed them and they just said, send us your flight information. So just that ISP email.
Okay.
They just want they said the link or something.
Okay, so on number 1, make a note. Travel itinerary to ISP. Just send it to isp@byu.edu.
And also, it won't show on your end that it's put in, but they just emailed me back and said, hey, like you're good to go, come get your
Okay.
backpack.
Okay. Thank you, Allie. So if apparently you can't click on that particular item and have it work, but if you'll do the other, then it'll go. Thank you for that. Security cultural briefing, we've done that a couple of times. We're going to finish that today. Financially cleared, we can't clear you, the ISP office clears you. Most of you are down to your last payment for the winter group, which is your tuition payment. Essentially, you'll notice that's the amount of tuition as well. So make sure that gets paid by a certain deadline. You can't come if that's not done. And in addition to that, some of you will see that it doesn't look like it's the full tuition. I'm going to address that in a minute. It's because you haven't signed up for enough hours. You need to be registered for 12 hours or more in the winter, 6 hours or more in the spring. And if you register for less than that, then it's going to show you a smaller tuition charge. And then if you go in after class, you'll have to pay more. So
I
Just-
think actually spring is 7.
Well,
I just
it's-
reread.
It's 6, but almost
Oh.
everybody takes 7
Yeah.
because you can't really take the London walks and 2 other classes.
Exactly, so it ends up being 7?
Seven.
It ends up being 7.
Required.
Essentially,
Yes.
you're required to sign up for 7, but the tuition doesn't change after 6. It's the same tuition. So, are any of you owing money and not getting nasty notes from ISP Finance Office? Cassidy, that might be the case, because I don't think they send it to parents, I think they send it to you as adults. If you've got more than just the tuition payment to make, and you haven't gotten a note from ISP saying, we're gonna drop you, then would you check your spam filter and see if it's filtering it out? I found out my emails were getting filtered out, several people in here and some other people who aren't here, out of their accounts. So please check for that. They will update you, and we get a report that we can look at periodically, but I know that there are a few of you, that there's still some money that they expect to come in, and if you haven't gotten notice of that, please check and see if you're getting that filtered out. And if you are, go look through your spam filter, and if that doesn't work, then call the ISP, ask for the finance people, Troy Galbraith or Ryan Zerker, and they can help you out with that. Takeoff date to ISP, that's again something that once you get your flight plans, you can, I guess that probably has to be communicated the same way by that email. So if you send them your itinerary and your takeoff date will be presumably right.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, HTH program registration. I thought you had to register for this. That was the impression that Landis left. But I found out that you are actually going to be registered. It's already included in your fees. I knew that. But you will be registered automatically with the HTH, which is an insurance, medical services, and some other things. You will be getting sometime in December an email saying that you've been registered and giving you a link that you can go to look at what liability is covered, what medical options are available to you, things like that. I would recommend, as I said in here, review that with your parents, review the insurance